This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening everyone and welcome to Southern Cross News. The Treasurer has handed down his fifth budget, saying it will create thousands of new jobs and drive the state forward. The state government committing $2.6 billion in an infrastructure cash splash. It's also promising to recruit hundreds of new health and education staff. Our reporter Michelle Wisby has been looking over the figures today and joins us now. Good evening, Michelle. Was it a good news budget?
Good evening, Joe. Well, it was a classic post-election budget today, revealing no big surprises. The government has committed to all its election promises, rolling out infrastructure, health and education funding. But not everyone is happy with the government's spending plans. Let's take a look now.
Tasmania is on the cusp of a golden age, according to our Treasurer. Infrastructure, the big spend in the state budget, $1.1 billion in new funding for roads and rail. Peter Gutwin also promising 9,300 jobs will be created over the next 4 years.
We have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to take a Tas Inc. view to securing our future.
$121 million allocated to the upgrade of the Bridgewater Bridge, as well as further funding for major roads and money to ease traffic congestion. A boost also for Launceston's private Calvary Hospital, moving to the next stage of its proposal to relocate closer to the LGH. Health spending to include $250 million in additional funding, $120 million for new infrastructure, 478 new staff in our hospitals and 76 new beds. 138 of these jobs rolling out over the next year. 192 teachers heading to our schools, 85 support staff, and from 2020, free preschool will be offered to 3-year-old children from disadvantaged backgrounds. Northern Tasmania to get its own $270 million prison, but the site of the ambitious project not yet known.
There has to be a conversation with the northern community, and that's beginning, as I understand it. That'll take place over the next 12 months.
Justice also set to benefit from 125 new police on our front line, $80 million for a Southern Remand Centre and $7.3 million for the Ashley Detention Centre. But not everyone was happy today, the government adding no new money on top of its $125 million affordable housing strategy.
We do know that Peter Gutwin wants to crow about this being a massive investment in infrastructure in the state budget, but it has failed to invest in people.
This budget's full of disappointments. The Treasurer told us it's a big vision infrastructure budget, but when you dig down, it's just more roads, and more roads.
The budget revealing a higher than predicted surplus, a total of $162 million. But when all grants were put aside, the underlying net operating balance is in the red by $4.5 million. While our future share of the nation's GST carve-up remains uncertain, the Prime Minister today offering his reassurances. The government leaving one more trick up its sleeve, the sale of the Treasury building in Hobart, a potential $20 million sweetener to prop up its bottom line. Michelle Wisby, Southern Cross News.
While the business industry has hailed the $2 billion of infrastructure spending as beginning a magic few decades for the state, those in the community service sector say vulnerable Tasmanians have missed out in this year's budget. The public sector is also now preparing to step up its fight for better wages.
It's a budget hoped would help our homeless, but they claim most vulnerable Tasmanians will be no better off anytime soon.
At $161 million surplus when people don't have a home to call their own is not good enough.
Shelter Tasmania welcoming the additional $25 million per year for affordable housing. It says
we would have been like to have a nice surprise and see some new initiatives in the funding. We'd like to see more money brought forward. We're really hoping to see that public housing debt gone.
$20 million to help provide more housing to those with a disability, also described as not enough.
Our concern is that people with a disability are going to have to join the queue with community services and that there could be some serious delays.
To health, and the promise of 76 new beds is being met with caution, especially when no additional beds have been budgeted for at the Royal Hobart Hospital next financial year.
More beds at hospitals is one thing that will happen over time, but in the immediate term we're not clear on. The budget doesn't outline what's going to happen right now.
Questions are also being raised about how the state will attract and retain government workers when the Treasurer is standing firm on 2% wage increases for the next 4 years.
Tasmanians who are now earning $213.40 a week less than other Australians will be very disappointed that there's nothing in this budget today to address that wage gap.
We know that at the end of 2019 that nurses and midwives in Tasmania will be the worst paid.
The business community, though, is more than impressed, with small businesses set to benefit from an infrastructure boom.
With the infrastructure spend the way it is now, heralds a new dawn in the Tasmanian economy. I think it's going to be a magic couple of decades.
We're very pleased to see concessions in the housing market for downsizing and first home buyers in particular.
Millions extra for tourism and national parks, described as extraordinary.
What's particularly pleasing is that a lot of that investment will flow in the next 2 years when it's most needed, and obviously start dealing with this pressure we've got with visitor growth across the state.
Monique Dadson at Southern Cross News.
With the budget, today's hot topic and the looming Braddon by-election, Malcolm Turnbull took a trip to Tassie. The PM's time spent spruiking recent funding announcements with candidate Brett Whiteley in tow. But Labor says it's less than impressed. Nothing new was offered.
Starting his day celebrating the state government's contribution to the long-awaited Bridgewater Bridge.
All the money is on the table to do it, and it'll be open in 2024, Will? Yep. That's your commitment? Good, we'll hold him to it. We'll be back in 2024, and there better be a bridge here, Will? Yeah. That's right.
The state government contributing the remaining 20% needed, adding to the federal government's previously pledged $461 million.
Long talked about, promised before, but it is now going to be delivered.
The Prime Minister then making his way to UTAS on the northwest coast, announcing $2.4 million of money already set aside in the federal budget to fund health research.
It's so important to have a pathway for the potential rural and regional GPs and specialists here in Burnie.
But Labor was quick to rain on the parade.
Talked about health, while at the same time cutting $177 million out of the university campus here in Tasmania.
That puts pressure on whether to reduce class sizes, particularly at a campus like the Cradle Coast campus in Burnie.
The PM dismissing the claims as dishonest.
That claim is not true. It's another bit of false news. The Vice-Chancellor has made it clear today that you have the resources you need to do the university's work, and just for the record, there is an additional $223 million of federal money going to the University of Tasmania.
But Labor says with the by-election just around the corner, those in Braddon should be disappointed.
All that we've seen in the last few weeks from the Liberals is re-announcements of programs that happened 2-3 years ago. They've actually not come here once and made any new announcements about addressing the things that the people of Braddon are needing here.
ReachTel results earlier this month put the Liberals ahead of Labor for the seat of Braddon 54 to 46. But whether that's the way it falls on Super Saturday is something we'll have to wait 6 weeks to find out. Jessie Gilmore, Southern Cross News.
A 30-year-old man charged with major drug trafficking has today pleaded not guilty in Hobart's Magistrates Court. Mitchell John Campbell was extradited from Queensland to Tasmania last night and was charged soon after. It's alleged Mr Campbell was sending packages of drugs to Tasmania through Australia Post. The case has been committed to the Supreme Court for September. With the Dark Mofo Festival just about to get into full swing in Hobart, artists are preparing for their weird and wonderful performances. One in particular who will spend the next 3 days under the ground of one of Hobart's busiest traffic thoroughfares. Our reporter Louise Hedger is on Macquarie Street now. Good evening, Louise. What is happening there?
Well, Joe, it is a work of art that has certainly caused some controversy, and it's definitely been getting us talking. But regardless of any of that, it is going ahead tonight with crews working behind me here just about to open up the bitumen for Mike Parr to go underground. The controversial artist will spend the next 72 hours underground in a steel box with nothing but a bottle of water, a mattress, a bucket and a book. And he'll just be down there with us knowing that he's there, that's all. The road will be resealed tonight. Traffic will resume as normal. Mona has certainly shocked many of us over the years, but regardless of that, I'm sure this one will be no exception. Here's what else is happening around Dark Mofo above ground. Putting on the finishing touches, almost full steam ahead for Hobart's Winter Feast.
It might seem calm, but yeah, it's pretty frantic. I have a nervous twitch in my eye right now.
Crews working around the clock to move things into place, ready for tomorrow afternoon's kick-off.
We have a new fire installation in the forecourt that you'll be walking through when you access the site.
This year's winter warmer tipped as bigger and better, with extra stalls, seating and entertainment, expecting upwards of 10,000 visitors a night.
Just beautiful food, so winter, hearty, spicy, lots of flavour, lots of nice hot drinks.
All stalls using materials that can be recycled or composted.
It's a big event. We want to try and make steps to make it slightly more friendly for the environment.
Across the road, artists and their works are set to engage the wandering crowds from tonight.
A lot of the works are durational, they unfold slowly and they sort of yield their fruits by attention.
With years of hard work on show at Invisible House, visitors said to witness something special and unusual.
There's a group of artists involved in it and we're all, investigating the sort of outer reaches of human consciousness and ritual and performance.
Welcome back, everyone. Fundraising efforts to help sick Tasmanian children are well and truly underway, with Give Me 5 for Kids hoping to top $500,000 during this year's campaign. The Prime Minister also eager to get in on the action, braving the elements at this morning's Wheelie Bin Walk.
Breaking bread to help sick children in Tasmania. Give Me 5 for Kids kicking off its busiest period of fundraising with a breakfast at the Launceston General Hospital. The proceeds set to provide medical equipment outside hospital budgets to Tasmanian paediatric wards.
It's really about the whole community coming together and providing much needed funds, which then purchase equipment that's much needed for the hospitals at either end of the state.
Now the battle lines have been drawn, with the organisation hoping to outdo itself.
There is so much work going into this year that we're really hoping to smash the 2017 targets.
Meanwhile, at Berrydale, volunteers took to the streets for a wheelie bin walk, where Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull had a break from politics to back the cause, amping up the pressure to go above and beyond.
Fantastic. So $454,000 last year, and you're going to go through the $500,000 mark this year.
Look, I hate putting pressure.
You will. You'll do it.
More fundraising events will be held over the next fortnight, culminating with the Give Me 5 for Kids telethon on June 26. Judy Augustine, Southern Cross News.
Well, if you're someone who always leaves things to the last minute, here's something which may get you organised. This year's Freycinet Challenge will offer prizes to early bird entrants in a novel push to increase participation numbers.
It's an adventure race set to a stunning backdrop, but getting people to commit to October's Freycinet Challenge in the middle of winter is proving to be the toughest task of all.
We're trying to buck the trend of all Tasmanians entering events late.
That's why organisers are offering special early bird prizes, such as a getaway package at Mona. The earlier you enter, the more prizes you'll be eligible for.
It makes it really difficult organising events, big events like the Freycinet Challenge, when you're not certain of your entry numbers.
It's one of the ways Mark Padgett is reviving the Multisport Challenge. A former competitor, Mark took over running the event last year in a bid to turn around plunging interest.
Numbers were up on the previous year considerably, so this year we're hoping for that to improve again.
The aim this year is for at least 400 people to sign up. The event combines running, kayaking, cycling and mountain biking.
It's not just for the elite competitors, in fact it's more for families. It's about getting away to a beautiful place, enjoying the weekend and, entering an event and having a bit of fun. So that's what we're really aiming at this year.
Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
Well, it is budget day and we have an opportunity now to hear directly from the Treasurer, Peter Gutwin. Good evening, Treasurer. How are you this evening?
Joe, I'm very well, thank you.
It's certainly a bit cold down there. Thanks for joining us. There's certainly money being splashed around as your election promises stated, but it does appear the community sector is far from happy with funding for vulnerable Tasmanians. If there is a multi-million-dollar surplus, why haven't you spent it?
Well, Joe, we're spending $300 million on keeping the cost of living lower, mainly targeted at people on low incomes. And importantly, in this budget, we double more than a 100% increase in respect of investment into affordable housing.
So why do you think the community services sectors are unhappy with the spend?
Well, Joe, that's a question that you'd need to put to them, but this budget invests across the board significantly to support Tasmanians. We've got record spending into education, building new schools, upgrading old ones, significant investment into health, and importantly, as I've said, from the point of view of the community sector, we are doubling from the 1st of July the investment into affordable housing, which is what they've been calling for.
Well, let's just look at the surplus. It's expected to be $162 million next financial year. But if you take out national funding, are we actually in debt, $4.5 million? So is there anything in the bank for unexpected spending?
Well, Joe, we hold net cash and investments, significant amounts of net cash and investments. We are in a very strong financial position and the surplus is strong. And I make this point in terms of the surplus. That is the Tasmanian people's insurance policy against adversity. We've had to face floods and wildfires in the past, and I'm sure that at some stage in the future there'll be challenges again that we need to face. And so it's sensible to have modest, sensible surpluses across the forward estimates as we planned for.
I wanted to ask you about the GST. The Prime Minister has only verbally told you that Tasmania will be happy about its future GST carve-up. It's a very vague statement. Is it enough to have a verbal promise considering it's 40% of your budget?
Well, the Prime Minister has said that he would guarantee not $1 less, not 1 cent less. We've got more certainty going into this year's budget than what we've ever had with budgets in the past. But I make the point, this budget is about building Tasmania's future. It will take Tasmania to the next level, and the record level of infrastructure spend will drive our economy, it will grow it, it will attract further investment, and importantly, it's going to create more jobs.
Well, Treasurer, thank you very much for joining us. I guess the next few days will be spent with you selling your budget to those who are perhaps not as happy as you are. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Joe, thank you very much.
Let's take a look now at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. Australian shares have closed the day weaker after disappointing local job figures and weaker than expected industrial activity data out of China weighed on the market. The ASX 200 index has dropped by 6.9 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 75.6 US cents and just under 64 euro cents.
Kingborough Tigers coach Trent Bomella has channeled Hollywood blockbuster Bad Boys as he looks to drag his side out of an epic form slump, while Clarence will be sticking to what they know at home this weekend, despite facing the TSL's most formidable outfit.
In the wake of his side's 8th loss in a row, the Kingborough coach resorted to movie quotes today.
You ride or die. We ride together, we die together.
We ride together. We die together.
One player that won't be riding together this weekend is Tyler Carter, who's copped a 2-match ban for insulting an umpire. It's a loss the Tigers can ill afford, up against the Lauderdale side fresh from the bye, having claimed the 2 big scalps of Glenorchy and Launceston.
In the last couple of weeks, since Windy's been back in the chair as well, their contested side is really back. Like they're playing, their tackle numbers would be up.
The boys are pretty confident that we're getting back to our footy we played last year, so that the feeling is quite good around the group.
But despite the buzz, McGuinness says his boys will still need to tread carefully come Saturday.
It is a danger game, especially at the Twin Ovals. I think they played the Twin Ovals quite well, and we were able to knock them off down there early in the year. But it was a tough game. They had us in the first half.
Breathing down North Launceston's neck up the top of the table following their 5th straight win, Clarence hosts the premiership favourites in what should prove the match of the round, if not the season so far.
We need to make sure defensively we're on. But I don't think we can change your style to try and combat North Launceston. I think you need to back in your process.
The Northern Rangers are looking for a return to form in one of the NPL's hottest showdowns. Rangers have conceded 9 goals in the past 2 games and desperately need to lift against crosstown rivals Launceston City.
We've come through a little patch of struggling as well, which is not great for us, but we'll go into this game full of confidence. We've got a couple guys back.
They're undefeated this year and we were one of the only teams to take points off them last round, so yeah, it's definitely big for us.
The two sides drew 1-1 last time they met. So netball and Crips will be out to show that last weekend's shock loss to Burnie was nothing more than a one-off as they prepare to take on Karana in Hobart tomorrow night, who are dealing with problems of their own after their head and assistant coach resigned during the week.
We're really looking to play 4 consistent quarters of netball and just valuing the ball and playing off all our centre passes. Yes.
While OHA will be out to secure their first win of the season up against fellow cellar dwellers Burnie.
And they're going to be really ready to go, and I can tell they're really going to want to stamp their authority on the competition with 2 in a row, but we're up to the task and we're really looking forward to it.
In the weekend's other games, Devon take on the Arrows with Kingston to battle Burnie. And finally in sport tonight, the Southern Primary School's cross-country carnival has wrapped up after 3 days of competition. Around 1,000 children from 58 schools put in their best effort at Gilston Bay, Bellreeve, Howrah and Molesworth were the winning schools in the 3 divisions.
Good evening. Temperatures range from -3 at Ouse to 15 at Bushy Park today. Hobart, Burnie and Devonport 13, Launceston 11 degrees. Bit of rain about. Strawn had 20 millimetres to 9 a.m, the highest today 14 at Low Rocky Point. Flinders Island and Friendly Beaches 14 degrees. King Island, Low Head, Ouse and Strawn 13, St Helens 12 and Lyowini 5. Cloud did start streaming over the north and west of the state today as the front rapidly approached, and we can see that on the big picture, all the clouds spiralling into a low to our west with active thunderstorms. Patchy low cloud over southern WA and South Australia, a mid-level band over Queensland. Tomorrow the low to our south will direct a westerly flow over Tasmania with embedded troughs. An area of high pressure lies over western and central parts of Australia. Now, as mentioned, the winds will have a west to northwesterly angle tomorrow, reaching 20 to 30 knots around the coastline and to 20 knots inland. A severe weather warning for the North Coast and Bass Strait Islands for potentially damaging winds. A gale warning from Sandy Cape to Wineglass Bay is on. Strong wind warning for remaining waters and a small craft wind alert for the lakes. We also have a minor flood warning for the North Esk, a flood watch for northern river basins, a warning to sheep graziers for many districts and a road weather alert for the north. And for tomorrow, a shower or 2 for Hobart, 5 overnight, 12 the high, 12 for Huonville with a shower, possible shower for Campania, 13 the maximum. Launceston showers easing, 13, 12 the high for Devonport and 13 for Georgetown, a windy afternoon. Showery and windy for Burnie, those winds will ease later, 12 the top, 11 the high for Strawn, showers for Wynyard and 12 degrees. And for St Helens, morning showers clearing, 13 the maximum, 14 for Swansea, a shower or 2 for Port Arthur and 12. To the weekend and Saturday, showers and possible hail, mainly over the west, south and central areas, snow to 900 metres. Showers over the west, south and east, possible hail over the south with southerly winds. And on Monday, a few coastal showers over the south and east. Sunny in Perth tomorrow, showers for Adelaide, Melbourne and Canberra. Sunny but windy in Sydney, but fine for Brisbane.
That's all from the news team for now. Have a lovely evening. We'll see you a little bit later with updates. Bye-bye.